that I love helping people believe in themselves and seeing their potential. And what better age group to do that with than children? That's the best, because they haven't figured, they don't have all those other messages quite yet, hopefully, that are telling them otherwise. So you can really build on that and develop them, their whole attitude and outlook on life, which is exciting.
This is Jeff Burningham, and welcome to the Extraordinary Us podcast. We are so excited to be back with new, fresh content, and we are starting with a doozy. It's going to be a great one. We have a great guest here today. Before we get started, let me remind you real quickly the purpose of the podcast. Number one, and this is based on my experience in 50 countries and in so many different things, no matter our differences, and we are all different in so many ways, there is always more that binds us together. Always. No matter our differences. So let's look from places that we can build together from. Number two, because of that, I think that our world, culture, everyone around us could benefit from a little less comparison and competition and a little more compassion. Let's have compassion for each other. We are fellow travelers, and life is not easy for any of us. And lastly, too often I think we let mistakes of the past and or fear for an unknown future cloud our judgment. We're afraid. We feel fear, and that helps us make bad decisions. Let's not have fear. Let's have faith. Make decisions in faith. And I know that our guest today is a great example of that faith. None other, ladies and gentlemen, look, I love all my guests. All my guests are my friends. I love them all. None of them do I love nearly as most as this one, Sally Burningham.
I hope that's true.
Oh, that's true. 100%.
Oh, good.
Sally Burningham, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I am excited to be here.
We have spoken, just so you know, we're about 40 episodes or so in to the Extraordinary Us podcast, and we've talked about doing this multiple times, like on Mother's Day and other times, and we haven't done it. It just feels right to do it now. I think it's time. How about you?
Yeah, oh, for sure. It's time.
I'm excited for you guys to get to know Sally better. We have a podcast together called Under Our Bed. You've probably heard of it. And so we're going to have to work at not making this like under our bed, the banter back and forth.
Yeah, the little conversation. Yeah, I gotta not rely on you so much.
Oh, that's not the case. Sally, everyone wants to know you. You have an amazing story to tell. Sally is the beautiful mother of 4 children. She grew up in Texas and then Utah. She has a degree in teaching. She taught 2nd grade. Before we had children, she taught 2nd grade. And then last year, again, during COVID, she jumped in to help teach 2nd grade. Her husband has run for governor.
That's right.
We may ask her about that. Her husband's a crazy entrepreneur. We may ask her about that and how she deals with that. So let's jump right in, Sal.
Let's do it.
And we're going to have, by the way, an announcement about the Under Our Bed podcast at the end of this, because we'll talk about podcasting a little bit, because that's kind of where we end up. Mm-hmm. So Sal, for people that don't know you, tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what your growing up was like. And
yeah, I grew up what I remember, I was born in Lubbock, Texas, but I don't remember that. We moved from there when I was about 3 months old to El Paso, Texas. And I have fond memories of El Paso, Texas, our neighborhood there. We had a white brick house. I remember that. And one of my favorite things to do was to ride my bike.
You love riding your bike. This is something you may not know about Sally.
I do. I love riding my bike. So I would go out on my little tricycle and ride that until I never knew how to ride a 2-wheel bike until we moved to Utah, but that's another story. So I'd go out and ride my little tricycle, and I loved dolls and babies. And so I found this, but I didn't want to take my dolls out onto my tricycle because they'd get dirty, getting dragged on the ground. You never know if they're going to fall off or whatever.
fall out the back. It's kind of like real life when you grow up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I found this brick in the garage. This is one of the reasons I remember that.
How old are you right now?
Probably
what
about
ages?
4 to 6,
Okay.
7
Got
is
it.
what I would remember clearly. So I found this old brick in the garage from our house, a white brick, and I decided that was going to be my outside baby. So I would take a blanket out and wrap up the brick in a blanket that I didn't care if it got dirty, and then put that on the back of my tricycle and pretend that I was the mom. And I was driving around with my imaginary kids, except that baby brick was a real one. And
Was it just one kid though?
No, I had multiple children, but the baby was the brick.
Oh, God.
And I would ride around and take them places.
Meaning like your other kids were at school or something.
I'd like
and you
drop
were...
them off at school on
Got
my
it.
bike, like
Yeah.
I'm driving the car, pretend like I'm taking them here, taking them to piano, whatever. I would do that for hours.
That is so interesting. And now you're a mother of 4.
Yeah, now I do it for real.
Now you do it for real. So is it better with a brick that doesn't talk back? Or is it better with teenagers that do?
I don't know. There's a lot of good thinking time when it was just a brick.
That's right. You had some quiet time to think to yourself.
Time.
So I think that's really interesting that you had this nurturing and this motherly attitude so young. I didn't feel like that as a father that young. Mm-hmm. And we have a daughter now who is wonderful in every way, but I don't think she necessarily feels as strongly like that. Do you agree? Do you think you were unique in that way? Where did that come from? Or, as you reflect upon it now, 40 years later, what do you think of that and why and how and thoughts?
I don't know, but I do think it's unique. I think it's very unique. I don't remember a time as a little girl or teenager or young adult where my number one dream in life was to be a mom. Yeah. Like total number one. That's what I wanted to do more than anything. And I thought about it all the time. So, I would play everything house, like the riding my bike outside. With imaginary kids. And then inside, I always had a doll, a baby, something. And I played every aspect of that life, house, church. I would sit in our living room with dolls, like 3 dolls or whatever with me and just sit there like I was at church. And,
in silence?
In silence. And occasionally stand up and take one of the kids out into the foyer.
Because they were fussing?
Because they were fussing and being noisy. And my family thought I was crazy. They're like, what are you doing?
No way.
Like, I'm playing church.
No one else would think you were crazy. That is crazy, Sal.
But
sorry.
no, really, like every aspect. I loved babysitting. Oh, I wanted to start babysitting when I was like 8 years old. And of course, that wasn't going to happen. No one would ask an 8-year-old to babysit.
Yeah.
So as soon as I turned 12 and people thought I was old enough to babysit, that was my favorite. I had jobs every night of the week. There were
babysitting jobs?
Yeah.
Just lined up.
Lined up. There was a period of time from probably about 12 or 13 to like 15 that I really did have a job almost every night of the week, a babysitting job.
And now our daughter, Claire, is in the prime of her babysitting career.
She is.
She's 14 and she's been babysitting and loves it. She's a great babysitter.
Yeah.
What do you love about riding your bike? Because this is something out, like I remember being on the beach with you. We beach cruise around. I bought you a bike a couple of years ago. You have not used it enough, Sal, because you're a little busy as a mom of 4.
I haven't used it enough.
But what do you love about, what is it about bike riding? Or was it the make-believe in your head? I don't know. I've never asked you this. What do you love about bike riding?
I think it's just the being outside. There's something about being outside. I think everyone could say that. Being outside is a good way to kind of connect with yourself, with God, with, just quiet, peaceful moments happen when you're outside.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love being outside. I love just being by myself on my bike.
Are you an introvert or extrovert, Sal?
Introvert, yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Just wanted to get that out of the way.
Yeah,
Make sure
make that clear.
that I knew that, yeah.
So I don't know, just riding with not a specific goal. Like I don't ride fast, as you know. I am not a racer on my bike. I prefer to just go slow and steady and take my time and enjoy the things I'm looking at, the birds and the flowers and the, whatever it is, and the fresh air, and just think.
Yeah.
And I, for some reason, when I'm on my bike, I think it's easier to do that because it's you don't think about pedaling so much. Like if I'm
It's
walking
like a flow
or
activity
running,
for
yeah,
you.
yeah, flow activity. If I'm walking or running, I have to think kind of about that, especially running. But even walking, I kind of think about that.
Really?
Yeah, it seems like I think a little bit more about where I'm going if I'm walking or running than on my bike. I just ride.
You just ride.
Yeah, I don't know why that seems
Was El
weird,
Paso a pretty place to ride a bike though?
No,
And was it not?
no.
Like you said, the birds and the nature,
Yeah.
it's like you're riding your bike in Switzerland. But I don't think of El Paso, Texas.
No.
It was probably hot and
Yeah, it was, but I didn't notice that because I was used to it. And it was just in my neighborhood. So there were flowers and trees, you know.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was out in the desert, but
And have you ever thought, or you're like a European biker, just
Yeah.
out for the joyride, enjoying it. And I'm not saying a racer, but
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Have you ever wished you were like born in Europe or somewhere else or whatever?
not so much.
Okay. So Texas was the place for you.
Yeah. Utah. I love Utah. It really can't get better than Utah, honestly.
Oh, I like this. Okay. So you're the youngest of four.
Yes.
So you had a great mom and dad. Your dad was a professor, by the way. That's why you were at Lubbock and Texas Tech and then UTEP, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And you were the youngest of four. You have an older brother and two sisters.
Mm-hmm.
What else did you guys like to do together growing up in Texas?
We jumped on the trampoline a lot.
Yes.
A lot. I remember that. Putting the hose under the trampoline and letting it spread. We actually got an above ground swimming pool in Texas.
Oh, wow.
One summer, which we thought was awesome that we arrived, because
you were big time then.
Big time to have
Stevens,
this above ground swimming pool. And then once we moved to Utah, we actually did ride our bikes a lot as a family.
Yeah.
We would go on bike rides to the creamery, to the USU creamery, and just around our neighborhood. And my parents loved to look at houses. And so as the youngest, I did a lot of that.
Yeah.
I did a lot of driving around and looking at houses, which I loved. I loved doing that. And,
This reminds me of a story.
And we would go to furniture stores a lot because my mom loves to decorate and redecorate and loves to look at furniture. So we would do that. And my sister Wendy and I would walk around the furniture store and like pick out what we'd want for every room of our house, which was super fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Were there any other specific games on the trampoline that you would play?
Yeah, totally. So my sisters and I would play Olympics.
Trampoline
on the
Olympics.
Trampoline, and my oldest sister was always kind of in charge.
Oh,
She was the
surprise,
oldest.
surprise. Yep.
And we would have to. So she would pick a trick that we were going to do. Like let's say a basic sitter, right? And
A basic sitter.
It wasn't
Is that
always
what you called
like
it?
that, but sometimes. So we'd have to make up a name and a country from where we were from, and then do the trick and end it. And then she was the judge, even though she did the trick as well. And so I don't remember a time ever where she did not get the gold medal. And then my next oldest sister got the silver, and I always got the bronze.
Oh, and you were always probably giving your heart out to win.
And I always thought I had a chance to get the gold, like no matter what.
That probably says a lot about you.
I really thought every time, like, okay, this is the time I'm going to get the gold.
Did you ever realize that the judging might be biased here?
Not really until I was older. That's the funny thing about it. Like, I don't know if my other sister, Wendy, and I ever... she probably did more than I did because I was younger, but I think we both thought this is going to be the time we get the gold,
This defines you, I think, Sally. This simple story defines something about you, which is just this purity and or pure outlook on the world, this optimistic outlook on the world. Have you always been like that? Do you feel like you've always kind of felt that way? And where does that come from, do you think? Or were you just born that way?
I've always felt that way. I feel like, my whole life I've felt that way. I think the first time I ever realized that maybe not everybody felt that way was probably after we'd been married. And I think you pointed that out to me, and I just thought everybody kind of was like that in a way, But
what do you mean? Like, I know your sisters, they're not the same like that.
You're right. I don't know. I guess I just never thought too much about it. Because it's just who I am.
Yeah.
And I never thought that it was strange or, I mean, it's not strange, but it is unique. And I think I just came that way.
Yeah. You were how old when you moved to Utah?
7.
Was that a tough transition for you and or for your family? Obviously, Utah has a very strong culture, good in a lot of ways, maybe hard or bad in a lot of ways. You moved from Texas to Utah, by the way, so that your dad could be the dean of the business college at Utah State. Mm-hmm. He was the dean there for...
I think about 15, 16 years, something like that.
15 years. Mm-hmm. So that was from when you were like 7 to early 20s, when we got married.
Yeah, when we first moved there, he wasn't the dean yet, but soon after, yeah.
So how was the transition to Utah for you and for your family?
For me, it was pretty easy, fairly easy, because I was in 2nd grade. I was little. Yeah. Although I do remember when I graduated from high school and some of my friends were talking about things that happened, like in 5th grade or something, and they're like, "Oh, Sally, you wouldn't remember that because you're new." And I was like, I've been here for 10 years. I don't think I'm new anymore. But that's kind of the culture of Logan, is that these people that have been there for generations and generations. So if you haven't been there for generations, you're new.
Yeah.
And that was really hard for my older siblings, especially, my brother was off at college when we moved, so it didn't matter for him. And then my oldest sister was a sophomore in high school, which was really tough.
Yeah, that's a tough time.
And then my other sister was starting 6th grade, which is another kind of transition time. So it was much harder for them than it was for me. But that was a funny story when they were saying that I was new and I'd been there for 10 years.
Yeah, and didn't you have a nickname like Longhorn Sally or something like that?
One of my best friends' dads called me Longhorn Sally because my mom would always put my hair in 2 braids. And so he thought it looked like a longhorn, and I was from Texas, so.
And this is so Texas and long braids, so Longhorn Sally, I get
sense.
It. So this is the question that everyone wants to know. Did or did you not have headgear growing up, Sally? I always tell our kids, by the way, that Sally had, because she had this phase, was this like 6th, 7th grade with these big glasses, like the big 80s, mid-80s glasses, braces plus headgear plus Sal. I mean,
I had
bangs,
permed hair and feathered bangs. BUBs, as my dad called them, big Utah bangs. But I did have all that, but I did not have headgear.
Whatever.
Let's get this straight. I did not have headgear. Our kids think, our youngest, James, who's 10, thinks that I really did because Jeff was always teasing me about headgear, which I did not have. And he was watching a show a few months ago, and someone on the show had headgear, and he said, "Mom, that's like what you used to have."
I love that story perpetuates. Yeah, I remember going back real quick to something you said. I remember the first time I came to Logan. It was the first time I've been there in my life to come meet your parents. And we were on a Sunday drive. It was over a holiday weekend during college or something like that. And I loved being with you, and it was awesome. And I love meeting your parents because they're great people. But I was a little, is bored the right word? It was a little slow the weekend was a little slow for me. Like there just hadn't been a lot of action. So we're on this Sunday drive again, everyone just the windows down, enjoying the, scenery, and it's so pretty and driving slow, at least to me. And I remember asking your parents, so what do you guys do for fun? Like, what does your family do for fun? And we hadn't been dating that long. And I remember your mom and dad saying to me, "Oh, we go on Sunday drives and we shop for furniture." And I do you remember me like slinking in the back of my chair, kind of down? And I just thought, I'm the oldest of 6 boys, right? I'm the oldest of 6, 5 boys and a little sister. You're the youngest of 4. And my family's like an action sports family. Mm-hmm. We're like wakeboarding and snow skiing and all played basketball and football and so to go to this family that was so, do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember.
That was funny.
Yeah, we come from a little bit different styles, backgrounds.
So how has that been hard, merging the different styles? Like you came from, you're the youngest from Utah. I'm the oldest from Washington State. We have this action, aggressive, more loud kind of family. that doesn't really fit you. How has that transition been for you?
I think it's been fairly smooth. I mean, although I did have to do a lot of things that I never thought I would do, like learn how to snow ski. And
Are you glad you know how to snow ski?
yes, it's not my favorite thing.
Yes.
Let's be honest. It's not my favorite. But I'm glad that I know how to do it because everyone in our family, our kids all do it. And so at least I can do it with them, even though they're better than me, but I can do it. And, water ski and wake surf and drive a boat and back down a trailer and, things I never in a million years would have dreamed that
I think your parents still don't think you can do this or know you can do this stuff.
Yeah, I think they're getting to the point now where they
recognize.
They know.
They're like,
they're impressed.
The baby is dominating us. She does all these things we've never heard of or thought of.
Yeah.
Because now Sally does wake surf. Do you remember learning to ski? Schweitzer Ski Resort.
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
The Christmas of our first Christmas married.
Yeah, it was pretty miserable, quite honestly.
The weather wasn't great. It was a little snowy and wet.
Great, and I was constantly on my buns, and so I was wet everywhere and cold, and it wasn't the most fun thing, but it got better.
Yeah. So before we get there, let's jump back a little bit more to high school. What did you do what did you love to do? You mentioned obviously babysitting. What other jobs did you have growing up? And then what hobbies or what did you like to do with your friends and for fun?
Well, I had a really good job in high school that was just summers, which was perfect. My parents didn't really want me to work during school, and that was great with me because it's busy during the school year.
Plus, you had to go to bed at like 8 p.m.
Yeah, I did go to bed.
When was your bedtime in high school?
Well, I chose to go to bed at like 8 or 8:30.
8 or 8:30?
Yeah, but I would get up at like 5:30.
Yeah.
So,
I
but
get
still.
It. Yeah, you went to bed early.
I loved to go to bed early. I still would love to go to bed early. It doesn't happen.
If you could choose right now, what time would you go to bed?
I'd probably go to bed at 9:30.
9:30?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll note that away. Next time we're up at midnight, I'll file that.
I mean, it's fun to stay up late sometimes, but on a school night for our kids, I would love to go to bed at 9:30 most of the time.
Yeah.
I had a job in the summers of cleaning dorms at Utah State.
And you say that's a great job?
Well, it was a great job because it was just the summers. It wasn't the weekends. And it was just the days. It was like 8 to 3 or 4. It didn't even go till 5. It may have even started at 7. I can't remember. But anyway, it was a great job. It was just the daytime. I could still go out at night and be with my friends or whatever. And the weekends I had. So it worked out really well and it paid well. I don't remember exactly, but it was good money. And
this is another question that people need to know. Which dorms were dirtier? Which dorms were harder to clean, the boys or the girls' dorms?
Okay, I'll tell you. The girls.
Oh, yes, that's what I thought.
The worst was after, it was like camps, they had camps. And you would think, oh no, football camp, that's going to be really bad. And it wasn't good. But the worst was the cheerleading camps.
Yeah.
Oh, clean those bathrooms after the cheerleading camp was the most disgusting thing I've ever done in my life.
But again, I can imagine, and let's not talk about it anymore. but then again, you say like it was a great job. Here's this optimistic attitude again coming out of you, Sally. You think you can win the trampoline Summer Olympics when you have the Russian judge, the oldest sister, who's not only participating but also judging. You're cleaning out the cheerleader camp and you say it's the best job. This optimistic attitude, I think, defines a lot of who you are. But keep going. So other jobs and or hobbies and things you did for fun.
Yeah, in high school, those were the only jobs I had. Hobbies, I participated in the musicals. I was in the musicals and plays in high school. I went to all of the football games and basketball games. That was a big thing. All the dances. I was in student government. I was the girls' league. We had a girls' league and a boys' league.
But did you enjoy that, student government?
Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, you did? Okay,
yeah,
good.
It was fun.
Did you have to run against someone?
I did have to run, yeah.
How was that? Did you enjoy that or no?
I don't love the running.
Did you negative campaign against
No. I don't even remember who ran against me. But yeah, it was fine. There weren't any hard feelings or anything like that. So, and I don't think I even put up posters or anything. I think I just had my name in the.
You just said Sally Stevens.
Yep, that was it.
Make the right choice.
Yeah,
I get it. I totally get it. 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. So then you head off to college, and you come from a family of educators. Not only was your dad a college professor, which gave him a lot of time to be with you, and you could talk about that if you want to, but also your mom went back to school and started teaching 6th grade when you were how old?
I think she started teaching when I was 4 or 5.
Okay, so really young, and she taught for like 20 years.
Yeah, she taught
So
for a
you
long
go to
time.
college. So what are you thinking you want to do when you go to college? How was your college experience,
Well, I always knew, this is another thing about me, besides being a mom, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. So when I was little in, elementary school, 1st, 2nd grade, I think it mostly started in 2nd grade probably because I loved my 2nd grade teacher. But
what was her name?
Mrs. Yokelman.
Yokelman?
Yokelman.
Oh,
I think
Yokelman.
She was like,
That's a tough name.
Scandinavian or something.
Did you call her that or Mrs. Y?
It actually started with a J. My dad called her Mrs. Junk because that's how it was spelled. J-U-N-K, blah, blah, blah.
Really?
Yeah.
Mrs. Junk. So he didn't like her?
No, he did like her.
Okay, it was a joke.
It was just a funny, easy thing to call her. But
Got it.
I don't remember what we called her, actually.
Okay, anyways.
Anyway, and so so I would play school. I'd come home. I saved all my papers from school, and I would come home after school and play school.
And do more school.
And I even wrote like a class list, made up 25 names or whatever, first and last names, and I would grade papers, and I would have parent-teacher conferences. This is all pretend, but I did it. I kept grades. I averaged out all the scores.
You had like
from the
names
kids
and stuff.
Yeah, and had names. And anyway, I loved it, and I just knew I wanted to be a teacher.
Did you ever have a Jeff B in your class?
I don't know. We could go back and look. I probably
Jeff
still have
B.
my stuff.
He was a C student. He would have been lucky to pass. Just
Yeah, he was average.
very average.
So anyway, I knew that's what I wanted to do. But my mom, she had some issues with teaching, mostly the amount of work and the pay that those two didn't add up together. And so she didn't want me to get into teaching and then feel like I was let down.
Yeah.
And so
which those are valid issues, right?
Those are valid.
We should pay our teachers more. They should get more.
Absolutely.
They have a critical job. You agree,
Yeah,
right?
and they do so much work. So much work.
Yep.
So I promised her that I would try something else. So my freshman year of college, I was thinking, well, what can I try? And I thought, well, maybe if I'm a school psychologist, that's kind of close to teaching. I still get to work with the kids. Maybe I'd like that. So I took a psychology class, and I knew after like a day or two that is not what I wanted to do. So I finished out the class, and then I told my mom in a very not my way, it's not my nature to confront or to argue about things, but I told my mom very strongly, okay, I tried psychology. I know I want to be a teacher. Sorry, Mom, that's what I'm doing. And she said, okay, that's great.
So she was okay with it.
Yeah. I think she just wanted me to try something else and think about something else. And I did that, and so she was happy with that. And so that's what I did. I majored in elementary education and graduated and taught 2nd grade, which was my favorite because that was my favorite growing up. So
that was your favorite grade. I'm sorry. I don't even know if I had tied that together or ever knew that. That's one of the reasons or the reason you wanted to teach 2nd grade because that was like your favorite year, your favorite teacher?
It's one of them, one of them. Because I had to teach, going through the program, I had to teach in all different grades. And 2nd grade was my favorite. I think 2nd grade is perfect because they're little enough. They're old enough they can do some things like tie their shoes, most of them, and read. But they're little enough still that they love their teacher and they don't talk back. They don't, they still love school. They love being there. So it's the perfect age, I feel like.
You're a person with such a sense of like purpose and a clarity of purpose. I don't feel that way as strongly. Where, again, you've always been that way. And I know a lot of people don't, especially in the world that we're currently living in. Mm-hmm. There's so much unknown. There's so much uncertainty. There's so much, but you're a person who kind of just knows what they want. Why? How? Any thoughts, advice for people that are like waffling around and wondering, like your husband?
I think that's a hard question to answer because I do think so much of that is innate in people. And I'm not sure it's easily learned, but I do think that, I'm a simple person, which helps. You're not simple. You're much more complicated. And so I think that's where it's easy for me to say, oh, well, this is obviously my purpose because I don't have a lot of other things floating in my head that make it complex.
Yeah.
So, to me, I just knew, okay, I love kids. I know that about myself. I love kids. So obviously the two main things that have a lot to do with kids are being a mom and being a teacher. So that's obviously, two things I want to do and that I enjoy. Yeah. I do. I love those two things. And I know that I love helping people believe in themselves and seeing their potential. And what better age group to do that with than children? That's the best because they haven't figured, they don't have all those other messages quite yet, hopefully, that are telling them otherwise. So you can really build on that and develop their whole attitude and outlook on life, which is exciting.
That is exciting. So, Sal, simple or complicated? You just said you're simple, I'm complicated. We're speaking generally, and I agree. But what's better?
I think probably a mix is the best, obviously. And that's what you can say about anything, you want to be well-rounded and well-balanced, and you don't want to be too much one way or the other. I think a balance is the best, obviously. And I think that's what we've gotten from each other as we've been married. I think I'm a little less on the as simple as I used to be because, my eyes have been open to complexity and to more
nuance.
More things that I should probably be thinking about instead of just keeping it so focused. And there's nothing bad about being focused. And I think that I've helped you stay a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Focused.
And you've definitely simplified my life, right? Mm-hmm. Like I've just realized, just chill and simplify. Yeah. I think that's what companions do for each other. Whether you're married, whether you're in a committed relationship, whether it's your siblings or good friends. I think the best of friends are those that often complement you and help round you out, like you said.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Have you guys heard of Under Your Bed? I bet you have by now. If you're listening to the Extraordinary Us podcast, I bet you've searched for it maybe and haven't been able to find it.
It's true.
Isn't that how life is sometimes? You just can't find what you're searching for. Constantly searching.
Well, now you can.
Now we've been found. Under Our Bed is finally out. It's really there, people. So type it in right now. Search it up.
You're going to love it.
Look for it live, subscribe, and tell your friends. Can't wait to have you there with Jeff and
Sal,
providing the comedy relief. Good night, Sal.
Good night, Jeff.
How unlikely was it that we met, Sal? I think we need to tell our story of how we met once publicly here.
Yeah.
We've told it at a lot of dinners or times, but I think we need to tell it here.
Yeah.
And how unlikely was it? And that we got married because we're so different. We're different, very different people.
We are very different people. And I think that every time I think of this story, I think that, wow, this was divine intervention that we met. And I think that there is no better person in the world for me than you. And I would say there's no better person in the world for you than me. So
I'd agree with that.
And I don't know that we would have just found each other without a little bit of divine intervention.
So how did you find your husband? How did this happen? And I'll chime in some too. But
I just have to tell, I will try not to make it too long, but I have to tell a little background here because we met at the MTC, which is the Missionary Training Center in Provo, Utah, for young men and young women going to serve missions for our church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so we were working there. But I have to say, I had never thought of working there.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that, because I personally did not serve a mission.
Go on a mission. Yeah, you were too young still.
I was still too young. Yep. And so I didn't even know you could work there without already having served a mission. So quickly, I'll just tell really quickly, I was working at the candy counter at the BYU bookstore, and a lady came in. I gave her candy. We had a little conversation. Several months later, I get a phone call from this woman, out of the blue, from this woman saying, you probably don't remember me. You helped me at the candy counter. I am the human resource director at the MTC. I have a job opening. I was so impressed with you when you helped me at the candy counter. I want you to apply for this job.
Hey, kids out there, everyone who's listening, do your best at any job you have, because things like this happen.
You never know.
And sorry, Sal, can I ask you, do you remember what month that was or when that was? Because I want to overlay where I was.
Yeah, let's see. I'm not really sure. I want to say January or February.
Okay. So I guess I was probably still on my mission coming home this next summer when this happened.
Yes,
okay?
I would say that's...
Yep. And I served a mission in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I'm out knocking doors and preaching and teaching and having a good time.
That's right.
With the people of North Carolina, y'all.
Yep, and I was selling candy. So anyway, so I did. I went and I interviewed, and she gave me the job right there on the spot. Later, I found out that there were all these things everyone else had to do that worked there, all these like typing tests and stuff. And I'm like, I never did any of that.
So she wanted you, obviously.
Yeah, she did. She wanted me. So that's how I got to be at the MTC. And then, do you want to tell how you got to be at the MTC? Because
well, yeah.
That's another story.
Yeah. So I served a mission in Charlotte, North Carolina, came home July 3rd of 1998. Was in the water, wakeboarding and water skiing July 4th. I was home in Spokane, Washington for only a month and a half or so. And then I really wanted, and I had transferred. I was playing basketball my freshman year and transferred to be at a different school, transferred to BYU. One of the main reasons was I had applied to go to Jerusalem, and I really wanted to do the BYU Jerusalem Center. So I was home for about a month and then flew to the Middle East. And so I lived in the Middle East for 4 months or so. And at the last month of that, I started thinking about, okay, now I'm going to go back to Provo. And by the way, I didn't really know Provo. I had been there a couple times, 2 or 3 times, but I had certainly never lived there and didn't know. But I just had this strong feeling like that I wanted to teach at the MTC. And so I remember calling up, this is in December, some early December, and I called up and said, hey, I want to teach at the MTC. How do I apply or whatever? And they said, we just hired like hundreds of teachers for the winter semester. We're not looking for any more. And I said, no, I pushed.
Yeah, you were persistent.
I was persistent. And they said, okay, fine, come in. It was like around December 30th or something like this, December 29th, 30th, come in for an interview then. So I flew home to Spokane, celebrated Christmas there, and then came to BYU a little early so that I could do this interview. And at that time, and still, because our son just got a job there and is now working there as of a couple of days ago, the interview was like teaching. You like taught and did different things, and they scored you. And anyways, I must have been on my game that day. It was a good day. And I scored so high that they called me back and said, you scored so high, we'll take you. Even though we don't need you, we want you.
So here's another lesson. Be persistent.
So the first day, I'll try to be quiet. The first day I walk into the MTC in the HR department, because I had to go to HR to like fill out my papers. Yeah. You would remember better. Yeah. I don't know. And there's a girl and she has a name tag on that says Sally. And I'm like, Sally's cute, like, who is Sally? I like Sally. I was kind of dating, if you want to call it that, someone that I had met at the fall semester in Jerusalem. She was a BYU student from Park City that we were kind of on and off again dating. And so I just think I logged in my mind, I'm interested in Sally if this doesn't work out, or Sally's cute.
Yeah, so it ended up not working out. with that girl, right? And
Yeah.
so Jeff...
Evidently,
obviously. So Jeff had some tickets to a basketball game, Utah versus BYU basketball game, which is a huge rivalry. And he needed a date. So...
And I even told, I'm teaching my MTC district, my group of missionaries, and I said, I know who I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask Sally, this girl I've never met. For those of you who know Provo, there's that little parking lot across between the temple and the MTC, the little parking lot right off 9th East. Mm-hmm. And I came out to the parking lot and we pulled up to that light one night right after work. We got off at the same time. And you were sitting right there.
Yep, right in front of you.
And I saw in the rear, I don't know. It's not like you normally look in the rearview mirror of people either. But I saw your face right in the rearview mirror. And I'm like, oh, Sally gets off when I do. I'm going to ask her tomorrow when we get off.
Uh-huh.
And we went down the road.
Yeah, we went. So then we keep driving. I turned into my apartment complex, which came first before Jeff's. And then he continued to his. And he kind of thought, oh, that must be where she lives, and kept going. So then the next night, he gets off work and comes out to the parking lot, and my car's not there. I had a class that night. I know it was a Wednesday because I had a night class on Wednesdays, and I'd leave work early to get to my class. And
the Ford Tempo, right?
The
silver Ford Tempo was not there.
And so, of course, he was heartbroken. I was not there to ask out.
Yeah, I was bummed because I had kind of psyched myself up. I think we said, hey, how you doing when we did the paperwork, but you didn't remember me.
I didn't know who you were.
And I had never spoken to you or seen you since then. And this is probably a month or two after I started working in the MTC.
Mm-hmm. So he got in his car and started driving home and was almost there to his apartment complex.
At the Elms.
At the Elms.
Across from the brick oven. I was literally starting to parallel park.
Yeah. And then he realized, oh, wait a minute. I know where she lives. I saw her turn into her apartment, which was Park Plaza.
The lovely Park Plaza.
Which is now being redone.
Oh, thank goodness. That thing is like 50, that's like that 150 years old. I think that was here when the pioneers got here.
It is well overdue time.
No offense to whoever owns Park Plaza, but geez.
But bravo, good job for redoing it now. Anyway, so.
Bravo. A little light clapping here, polite clapping.
So he turned around and went to Park Plaza, went to the office, asked the manager, is there a Sally that lives here? And granted, remember, he's still in his MTC attire, his white shirt and tie and his name tag.
Brother Burningham.
Yeah, and the office was like, oh, Sally who? And Jeff said, well, I don't know, because my name tag just said Sally. So they said, well, too bad. Good luck.
This is when I realized, this is maybe too much. I'm still in my missionary spirit, go get them. And I'm like, why am I doing? She doesn't know me. This is too much. So I walk back to my car, but I passed one girl on the walk back. And I just said to her, hey, do you happen to know a Sally? And she said, yes, I do. Sally who? And I said, I don't know. And she probably said Sally Stevens. And I said, I don't know. And she was like, how do you not know? Come up to my apartment and see if this is her, because you kind of have this directory of pictures for your apartment complex, et cetera. And I was like, oh, no. This is dumb. I'm going to my car. She was really persistent. Yeah. Do you remember who that was? I
wish I could remember her name. Anyways,
thank you to her, because she was really persistent to get me up there. I go up there, see the picture, and sure enough, it's Sal.
Yeah. Yep. So I just lived across the way from her. So she said, there she lives right there. Go over. And you were hesitant a little bit and wasn't sure if you should do that.
Yeah,
right?
I was nervous. I think the kind of questioning in the front office, which makes sense, by the way, but just made me realize, wow, this is kind of aggressive, and maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. And so she said to you, you've come this far, go for it.
Yes, she did. She's like, go for it. You've come this far. That's exactly what she said. So I knocked on your door.
Yes. And my roommate, Myra, answered the door. And
this is like defeat after defeat.
And you said, is Sally here? And she said, no, she's not, but I can tell her you came by. And you said, she has no idea who I am. Yeah. And then Myra was like, what? So you came into my apartment and you told Myra why you were there and why you wanted to see me. And you wrote it all down for me in a little letter, a little note. and left that note for me on the kitchen table of my apartment. So I came home, see this note for me. I read it and I thought, I wasn't sure what to think actually. I thought this is either super cool, like that this guy would go to all this trouble to ask me out, or this is a weird psycho guy, like I'm not sure which. So I asked Myra, I said, Myra, what was he like? Did he seem like a nice guy or was he kind of weird? And she's like, oh no, he was really nice. I said, okay, good. Then I'll call him back. So I called you back.
Yeah.
And you were apologetic.
Yeah, you answered. I said, oh, Sally, I'm so sorry to put you through this. We don't even know each other, but I have 2 tickets for the game in just a couple days. I thought I'd see you outside the MTC, but I didn't today. Would you like to come or whatever, or go to the game?
Yeah, and you'll never let me live this down, but I said to you...
Hey, this goes right with your whole life.
It does.
You're optimistic about things. You're a believer. And I want to talk to you about this because this has been a long story, but hopefully we never have to tell it again. Now it's just public and out there. Knows. And hopefully this has been interesting to people, but...
Yeah, so I said to you when you were apologizing, and I said, no, I think it is really admirable that you would go to all this trouble to ask me out. And you think it's so funny that I used the word admirable.
Yeah, it's so admirable.
But it's true. That's how I felt about it. It was really, not a lot of people would do that.
Yeah.
And so I had to use a word that was unusual and explained how special that was, admirable. Like it really is. I admired you for going to all that trouble to ask me out because it was a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and isn't that so true to my nature, though?
Oh, my
to
goodness.
just go for it. Yeah.
So totally true.
Yeah, you had no idea what a precursor that was to what was to come.
It's true. It's true. But how thankful I am that you're like that, because we would not have met as fast or maybe at all if you didn't do that.
Yeah. So there you go, people. The official version. The rest is history.
That's how we met.
We went on that date and kind of dated ever since. I got some cold feet and actually broke up with Sally. But true to her nature, she was totally calm. And I think she just felt like, yeah, right, you'll be back. And just said, good luck.
That's exactly how it was. My sister, who lived in Provo at the time, my oldest sister, Audrey, she called me and she said, aren't you sad? Don't you feel bad that Jeff broke up with you or whatever? I said, no, because I know we're going to get married. He'll be back. And I'm sure she just laughed. I'm like, okay.
The rest is history. I'm going to speed it up a little bit because I want to ask you several questions, but we're wrapping up on time. So what's it like to be married to a crazy entrepreneur? Obviously, we have a lot of entrepreneurs in our community. We have a lot of entrepreneurs that are friends. I'm an entrepreneur. You're like a slow and steady kind of person, whatever, stable. By the way, I have never felt anything but support from you in that. Thank you, babe.
You.
But what's it like? Give advice to young married couples or to maybe women that are married to entrepreneurs that are struggling a little bit with the ups and downs or whatever. What have you learned about this?
Well, here's something that I tell people, because it's hard. It is hard to be married to someone who is a total go-getter like that, who will risk a lot to make things happen, because it is kind of, it's that area of, well, I'm not sure if this is going to work, and but one thing I have to say about you, and hopefully other entrepreneurial wives feel this way too, but is I never had a doubt that you wouldn't provide, that was I never had that thought. Even the ups and downs and years of not making any money, and I was never worried about anything. And I guess part of that is maybe true to my nature as well, that I just have that positive outlook, and I was not worried ever. So that helped a lot.
Yeah.
But also, I think, you were happy doing what you were doing. And to me, that made all the late nights and the not seeing you, and having it be a little stressful at times, all worth it, because even when it was stressful, I knew you were doing what you wanted to do. And that was the most important thing to me. So if you were doing what you wanted to do, that made me happy. And quite honestly, I was doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I was at home with
It also enabled you to do it.
Yeah, I was doing what I wanted to do. So that made it easy for us, I think. I mean, hard. It was hard. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, yeah, we coasted through, because that's not true. But it made it easier and made it so we could get through the hard times.
Well, wouldn't you say maybe the key to a happy marriage is, worrying more, caring more about the happiness and whatever of your spouse?
Oh, yeah.
And you're a great example of that, by the way. And I think that's what you were exhibiting there. Even though maybe it was a little uncomfortable for you, it was a little uncertain, a little unsteady, you saw that I was happy, that I enjoyed what I was doing and was hopefully good at it. And so that was more than enough for you to feel a little discomfort.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, your happiness was above anything else to me.
So we have 4 beautiful children. We won't go through all those births and all those whatever. They age, their age range, by the way, is 20 to 10. But this is what I want to ask you, and I thought of this actually at the very beginning when we were talking about you carrying the brick around on your. Do moms get their due, Sal? Like, you've been home. You went back to teaching during COVID, like I said, that we may talk about in a little bit. But, do moms get their due? Because really, you have the hard job. I may be starting businesses, trying to close deals, working with people at work, but motherhood.
Yeah,
Tell us about it.
I think mothers totally get their due. Absolutely. I think there's nothing that brings greater joy than being a mother. It's the hardest thing and the most fulfilling thing you could ever do. And I had moments with our daughter when she was little that I remember coming to you crying and saying, I don't think that I'm the right mom for Claire.
I remember that.
Because she is very much like you. And that was hard for me.
She's never liked dolls.
No.
It's so different. She would much have, at 4 years old, she'd be with a ball, not a doll.
Yes.
Which is so different than you were.
It was so hard. And she had so much energy and she didn't know what to do with it. Yeah. And I didn't know how to help her. And it was just it was hard those few years when she was pretty little. But let me tell you something now, she's one of my best friends. Yeah. And, I would love to hang out with Claire anytime. And she would say the same, I think, about me. So that's, in an effort of all those hard years, there's your payback.
Yeah.
And I think moms get that payback all the time, just a hug and good night, Mom, I love you. This is obviously an emotional thing for me because it's what I do and what I love and, just what I dreamed about.
I think that this episode is helping you get to know Sally Burningham, which is why The Extraordinary Us exists. And to remind us that we're all different but similar. We all have similar dreams and aspirations, but we all are so different in how we approach and look at life. And I wanted to ask you, when I said get their due, I was kind of saying like worldly respect. You know what I mean? Like, do they, anyways, I was just curious your opinion on that. Like, does the world respect moms enough? Do they get their due in terms of like how hard their job, things like that? I don't know. Just do you have any opinions or thoughts on that?
Probably not. Yeah. To be honest, I think it's getting a little bit better, maybe, or maybe a little worse. I don't know. It's hard to say because we live in a different time now. Whereas I think I kind of feel like it's actually more and more looked down upon to be a mom that stays home. And I think we've kind of ebbed and flowed in this through time of where it was more accepted to stay home with kids if you were a woman and periods where it was no, go out and work if you're a woman. And I feel like we're kind of in that period where I do feel that it's looked down upon by a lot of people to stay home with your kids and not be doing something else. Like a lot of women stay home and have a job, they're entrepreneurs and they have a job at home that they do. Or they just work from home and do something else. And I think, but to just have nothing and stay home, I think that is looked down upon.
Yeah, and one thing I've heard you often say is that no woman should ever judge another woman. Like whether they're working, not working, whatever, having 10 kids or 0 kids or you know what I mean? Like I think you feel strongly that often women are maybe harsh critics of each other and that there's, that shouldn't happen. I don't know.
They are very harsh critics of each other. And, I think that you can't say how a woman should be a mom unless you've been in her shoes. Because every child is different. Every marriage is different. Every, income situation is different. I mean, you just don't know all of those minute details. And so to say, oh, well, she should be staying home, or, oh, she should be working, you just can't do that. Or, oh, she shouldn't parent her child like that. It's really, there's a lot that goes into it, and it's hard not to judge. Unfortunately, that's a thing that's hard for us as human beings, but it's really important not to.
Yeah. So then your husband really loses his mind and comes home one night or day, I don't remember how it happened exactly, and said, so maybe we should run for governor. I have this unique perspective in the state. I've been in the heart of the economy, building the economy in Utah for the last couple decades. I think I know where the state's headed economically. And by the way, a lot of that's good, but a lot of that will have challenges for growth, our quality of life, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, I think we should maybe run for governor. Mm-hmm. What do you think then? How was that experience for you? What did you learn? What did you appreciate about it? And what was hard about it?
Well, I say this to everybody. I wasn't surprised, even though we hadn't really talked about it. And it was a surprising thing, but because I know you and I know this pattern in your life that you like to do things spontaneously and you like to try new things and have an adventure, that didn't surprise me. So we went forward full throttle and just jumped in with both feet. And I think he would have been an amazing governor. But that's okay. It didn't end that way. So I'm actually really thankful that we had the experience. It was hard. It was hard for me, especially because, politics is a dirty game, and that is not who I am. And so I went into the experience with the mindset of, okay, I know that some people are going to be mean to our family, maybe to me directly, to my husband, which is probably even harder. But I am going into this trying to be an example to other people and having our family be an example to other people. We did everything together.
Yeah.
You and I were at... what do you think?
Yeah,
80% of the
besides
events?
John and Mary Kay, I think that, Mary Kay was with John a lot or almost all the time. Besides that, and obviously they don't have children at home anymore, but besides that, I think you were probably there the most of any other spouse. Yeah. Yeah,
which was hard because we do have kids at home. We had a great helper that helped us during that time with the kids, but it was important to me to be with you and to support you in every way and to show people that you can do it together, that's important, that families are the most important, and that I supported you. I wanted people to know that I supported you because I did 100%, and I always do. So I think we accomplished that. I also learned that anyone who, again, this is a judging thing, but don't judge people that are running for office.
Well, isn't that kind of the job? You're judging who you think would do the best job. But I guess what you're saying is don't judge their motives.
Again, you do not know. And quite honestly, we need to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And they're doing, even if I don't agree with how they want to do things, bravo to them for stepping in, and because it's a sacrifice no matter what. No matter what you believe and how you want to change things, it's a sacrifice to do that. And people should not be torn down just because they're doing what they think is the best thing for the state, the country, whatever, because I really do believe that anyone who runs and their policies and things that they throw out there are what they think is the best thing.
Yeah.
They're not trying to manipulate people and I don't know, undercut and whatever. Just because it's not what you believe the right thing to do is, doesn't mean they don't believe it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Well, you would have been the best first lady.
Oh, thank you.
Focused on education. Got some tears this time for maybe a different reason than the last thing. I want to ask you 3 last questions that will hopefully go kind of quickly. Not every life, though, is you're like listening to you. You'd think like you lived in what's that? The hills are alive.
Sound of Music.
Like in The Sound of Music, you know what I mean? Sorry, like just everything's peachy and rosy, but that's not real life, Sal. And one of the things I admire about you most is just how you go through the waves of life and the bumps of life. What are some challenges or the hardest challenge you faced and how you've overcome that? I often ask my guests this, what you've come back from and learned and appreciated or whatever.
Yeah, this is an interesting question, and I knew that you would be asking me this, but I don't have a fantastic answer because I do wonder, I think about this often because I feel the same way about my life. Like, gosh, looking back, and maybe it's just my perspective of it, is that I've had an amazing life with very few challenges when you really think about it. But I've often wondered if that's because of the way I look at things, and that I have had things that are hard, but I don't focus on that. And I don't let that be, I don't look at it as hard. It's just something that you do and you move on and you deal with. I don't know. I can't really say I've had super hard things in my life. The hardest thing I've had is just recently. And 2 weeks ago, my dad passed away from a brain infection very suddenly. And that's been, I'd say, the hardest thing that I've had to deal with in my life so far. And not saying I haven't had some hard moments, because everyone does. But I do think that I just continue on and I don't focus on that. And I try to see what I can learn from it and be better for it. So that's how I deal with hard things. Yeah,
I appreciate that, Sal. Having it be so close. This has been a family tragedy. Sal's dad was great. Just, a little over a month ago, our son Dallin came home from his mission. He was in our pool. He was 77 years old and in our pool playing around, just normal and great. And then very suddenly and quickly over 3 weeks, it was a roller coaster, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Of ups and downs. And he sadly passed away. Any other takeaways from this? Any other takeaways that you'd like to share publicly about this? Things that you learned or that was really helpful to you? I know there's a lot, but anything that sticks out comes to mind.
Oh, I think with every hard thing and every tragedy or every struggle, I think it leads us to be more empathetic towards people. And, a lot of things you can try to be empathetic about, but until you've experienced it, you don't really know. And I think for me, death of a loved one was something that I really needed to experience to truly know how to be empathetic to other people about. It's a sensitive thing, and I don't think we know how to react to people when they lose someone that they love, and it's awkward and we don't know what to say or do. And so now I feel like I know a lot better what to say and do and how to treat them and how to support them. And I love that. I'm thankful that I can do that for other people now, because I don't think that I was very good at that before.
Well, you're a woman of faith. That's another thing that I would definitely say defines you. How has faith helped you through this recent crisis with your father and or just through life as you've gone through the ups and downs of life, highs and lows? What has, maybe not specifically, but what has the role of faith been in your life, Sal?
Faith is huge for me, and I think that's one of the reasons that I am kind of so steady, is because I do have a very strong faith. And I know that one bad thing in my day isn't going to mean a bad life. And I have faith that the next day will be better. and that I can improve myself and I can help those around me. And, like also with my dad, I have faith that I will see him again. I have immense faith about that. And that brings comfort and peace to me. And I think, I just think knowing that there's more to this life than just what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I think that you have a really long-term perspective, and that the lens that you always look at things is through a lens of faith and optimism rather than pessimism and, whatever the fear.
Yeah.
And that's something I admire about you so much. So last thing that I just want to mention, and now you're a podcaster. What in the world has gotten into your mind? How did the Under Our Bed podcast come together? How are you feeling about that? What do you like about it or dislike? I know a lot of people that are close to us were like surprised that, you're doing a podcast together and Sally's on it and whoa. And, how is it?
It was surprising because it's not like me to be out in front of people. Although podcasting, you're not out in front, really. You're in your little studio by yourself, which I think helps me a lot. But
although you spoke in front of, you introduced me in front of hundreds, of people as the governor. Like you spoke in front of large groups when we were running for governor, for sure.
I did. And
you did a great job. Sorry.
That got me more comfortable. And so what I would say the governor run was huge in this podcasting thing because it got me more comfortable. It made me realize that I have a lot of things to say, valuable things to say, perspectives to share with people. And so when you mentioned that it might be fun to start a podcast together, I was not hesitant because of those things and because it was more time to be with you, which I always love. So Under Our Bed is fun because it's just us talking to each other.
Yeah.
And we get to just have conversations about things that we talk about all the time. And it's really fun to share that with other people and hopefully, again, be a light and an example to those that are listening and bring some light into their day.
Yeah. I mean, I love podcasting. I love The Extraordinary Us, and I love Under Our Bed. What we're not good at and what I don't love is producing it. Thank you, Dave Meekum, Michael Jolly, everyone else who helps us produce it, or promoting it. Thank you to people who've helped us promote it. And so I don't love that aspect of it, but the actual talking is fun.
Yeah.
And Under Our Bed is super light. It's funny. It's serious. It's about issues that couples deal with. It's short, 10 to 20 minutes. And it's here now. Like we've been teasing it for a while. That was my point in not being good at promoting it, but it's actually out there. So subscribe, check it out. And I think we are doing this just kind of on the side as a hobby to be helpful. There's no financial incentive for us in either of these podcasts. It takes a lot of time and money and effort. And we're going to go to an every other week, I think, podcast situation where we release an Extraordinary Us on Tuesdays, and then the next Tuesday we'll do an Under Our Bed, and then back and forth and back and forth. Alternate. Therefore, you'll hear these great guests that we have coming up, including the governor himself and everyone else. I don't want to not list people. Sally, of course, first and foremost. But then you'll also hear from Sal and I about lighter topics and or heavier topics if needs be, just about around our life.
Yeah, things that are happening relevant to us and hopefully to you too.
Have you had fun with the podcast so far?
I've had so much fun. Yeah, cool. It's been really fun.
So what? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, give it a listen. See if you like it.
Hey, I like you promoting. That's not like you. What are you excited about in the future, Sal? This is going to take us home. This is going to wrap us up. What are you looking forward to?
Oh, wow. Our oldest, like we said, just started college. And I have to admit, I know it's a few years away, and that's okay,
no, here comes the pressure.
I am excited to be a grandma. I think that will be so much fun because I do love kids. I love it. I'm excited to have maybe a little bit more time to get involved in things I'm passionate about, like education. Yeah. I've always been super involved, but I keep looking for that one thing, that is going to be my go-to of making a big difference. And I'm not sure what that is, but I know it will come, and I'm excited to do that.
Well, wherever you are, Sally, you're a blessing and a light.
Thank you.
So wherever you end up, you will be a blessing and a light. But certainly, Sally was just asked to join a board for a charter school here. And so certainly it will be around kids and education. I mean, that's been like your life mission and what you love.
Definitely.
Sally Burningham, thanks for joining us. And now everyone knows the secret behind my success. It's nothing about me. It's all about you, babe.
Oh.
Sally Burningham, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Here's to all the mothers, all the behind the scenes people, all the people that feel forgotten. You know, this episode with Sally was for you. Sally, isn't the most extroverted person. She's not in the spotlight. She does not seek the spotlight, neither does she need it. And there are millions and billions of people like that on the world. And bravo to you. I am giving you a standing ovation. And of course to Sally, I am as well. We're all different. We all fit together to make things better. Hopefully, I'm saying as humanity, as a human family, but certainly in our close-knit nuclear families, the families that we create with our loved ones, we're all pieces to a puzzle, and we all have a role to play. And sometimes that role changes, it ebbs and flows. But let me just say, and you could probably hear it here, Sally plays her role, whatever she wants that role to be, to perfection. And she utilizes her talents, again, whether it's outward or inward or whatever. I put no limits, by the way, on Sally and to all the people that are behind the scenes. I think that they can do whatever they set their heart and mind to. I know that that's true for Sally. I have constantly told her that, and I believe that. But here's to playing your role as best as you possibly can, whether that's out front, in the middle, in the back, wherever it is. Here's to you, and here's to you, Sal. That was my favorite episode of The Extraordinary Us ever, and it will never be topped no matter who I speak to. You are the secret behind my success, behind our success. If people don't know, now they do, and there should be no doubt about it. I love you forever.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Extraordinary Us podcast with Jeff Burningham. Please help us grow by leaving a rating and review and subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Also, tell your friends and share on social media. See you again next week.
Hey guys, it's Jeff. Thank you so much for your love and listening to the Extraordinary Us podcast. We just got news that we are in the top 2% of podcasts listened to worldwide. So please share with a friend. Word of mouth is the best way for podcasts to grow. And with that, there's another podcast that we've been working on.
There is.
And it's called
Under Our Bed.
And it's actually here. It's not fake. We had so many people reach out and say, we've looked for it, we can't find it. Guess what? It's there now.
You can find it now.
Yes, you can.
Search it up.
Search it up. Under Our Bed with Jeff and Sal. In episode 1, we talk about why the name.
Episode 2 is the joy of doing something unexpected.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And you'll want to hear what we have coming up. So, Under Our Bed is actually there now. Subscribe. Tell your friends. As Sal would say, search it up.
And you're going to love it.
I love you, Sal. Good night.
I love you. Good night.